Welcome to today's show, Free to Lead, Journeys of Leaders, driven by passion, inspired by purpose. And today we have a very special guest and a very unique approach to a unique kind of business. Mark Stern is the CEO and founder of Winning Custom Box Agency, specializing in transforming digital interactions into unforgettable physical experiences. He's got background in experiential marketing. He's helped national brands reshape their customer journey and driving significant engagement and sales goals through that process. I'll leave him to explain the unique product that they provide and the uniqueness of it. It's really tailor-made to each client. And just to share your journey, you've launched 100 successful campaigns since 2019, won awards, the Two Comma Club Award. You've been in Forbes. And yeah, you're in Austin, Texas. So, Mark, welcome to the show.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Your company, Custom Box Agency, I asked you before we go on air because I wanted to be clear, but could you say a little bit about it and how it works? And
Of course, so when people think boxes, I think people tend to think swag boxes, and we always joke and say swag means stuff without a goal. So stop sending swag, create something that's really intentional. And really what we're in is the business of optimizing the customer journey. So how a customer navigates through your products or services, whether it's at the point of acquiring a customer, better delivering what it is you do, or trying to retain them and extend lifetime value. And when we get into our clients' business, what we do is a lot of times our clients are playing heavy in the digital or online space. But now in this age of AI, you're seeing that more and more information is being pumped into the system daily. We're seeing it was billions of pieces of data pre the launch of AI, and now you're just seeing this exponential amount of data. An easy way to differentiate is what we have to offer, which is how do we take what it is that you do on a digital way and make it physical? And by doing so, I can gamify your business. I can create a clear pathway for your customers to follow. I can see where your customers fall short. But more importantly, through the box experience, I can give them all the tools and resources they need to be set up for success. So when we work with clients, we go through your products, we go through your software, we go through whatever it is you're offering and try and almost create, we love gamification. Can we create a journey that's very easy for your customers to follow? And inside the box, it's just all the tools and resources they need to be set up for success. And the last thing I'll say is when we work with clients, not only do we help you visualize how to optimize that journey, we can do all the design work, and we have our warehouse here in Austin, Texas, so we can produce these experiences and ship them out globally.
and if you could give us a couple of examples of diverse different kinds of businesses or customers that you provide that for, who would that be? Just
Yeah,
like some yeah, we work for these guys, under these guys. It's not just software companies, etc.
yeah. We say there's 5 different categories of avatars that we work with, and we've just grown to that over the years. One is coaches, so people who have coaching programs, especially if it's a year-long or multi-year program across many different industries or verticals. How do we lay out that structure so people understand what they are basically signing up for to get most out of that experience? That's a category. Info products is huge for us. So think of course creators, challenges, virtual events. If you're going to a 3-day virtual event, because virtual is just such a different dynamic that came out of COVID, we really learned how to play the virtual game. I can send you a box experience that not only prepares you for that event, but also seeds the next step, because a lot of times these virtual events have an upsell to a higher ticket product or service. Software as a service, what we're looking at is the first 30 days. Can I gamify the first 30 days? Because if you have a SaaS platform, if I can get you utilizing the platform beyond the free trial, typically I can get you to stick to the platform a lot longer. And the other 2 categories are service providers, doctors, lawyers, people in the real estate space, and then finally e-com. We're launching a couple of our own e-com products, but those 5 categories typically are a lot of the different verticals. And it's amazing that the way that we approach the problem is very similar across all of these, but the nuance into the experience is very unique to the individual and the business owner.
Yeah, I can hear your passion. Your passion is coming forth. You're very passionate about what you do. So, how did you get into this? If you just give us your backstory, where did you start, and how did you end up here?
I was a corporate junkie. I grew up in Alabama, and I was told that there's this natural progression to life that you graduate high school, you go to college, you work, you go to grad school. So I got my MBA at Duke, and then you get the big job afterwards, and you have the house with the white picket fence. And I graduated Duke with my MBA in 2012, and I was $165,000 in student loan debt.
Yeah.
And I had just started my career with Deloitte Consulting. I was in their strategy group. And it's one of those things that you work hard in life and realize, how did I end up here? $165,000 in student loan debt. And if you work for a big consulting firm, that's your life. Like 4:45 a.m. every Monday, a cab picked me up, took me to the airport. I was a road warrior. I flew weekly for 6 years straight.
Mm,
And you have that moment that you're like, this can't be it.
mm,
And I was exposed to the digital marketing world. I went to a conference that I found out about just by getting lost on YouTube. I had no business being at this conference. It was Mind Valley's A-Fest. And this was back in 2013, 14. And it was the first time I was introduced to the digital marketing space. And it broke the bubble of the world that I knew. I thought I was crushing it on the path of life. And now I just found out that there's this world of online entrepreneurship that I didn't know existed. And it took me years to make the transition out of corporate to becoming an entrepreneur. But to answer your question about Custom Box Agency, where it started was somebody told me I should do a virtual summit when I was trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do in the online space. And in doing so, the thing that drove me nuts about attending these virtual summits, and it's basically a virtual conference that they interview like 40 people. You have 24 hours to watch a subset of it. Otherwise, you lose access to those recordings. And I thought the model was so overwhelming that every time I would see people doing these summits, I just wish they would send me something to make it easier for me to digest and not feel so overwhelmed. And people in the online space have the tendency to create overwhelm. So when I
mm,
launched my summit, for anyone who bought a ticket to it, I sent them out a mailer. It was basically a publication I had built in PowerPoint called Entrepreneur Elements. And I had it printed out and bound and sent out. And what I didn't expect was people would receive this publication and they started doing reveal videos. They started taking pictures with it. I was getting all this organic buzz that clued me in to say, if this was a digital only product, you can't do unboxings. You can't do these organic reveals with the product. But because it was physical and I tied a physical component to it, now the attendees were becoming ambassadors and they were spreading the gospel of what I was doing. So the next time I did this, rather than doing 40 interviews, I interviewed 10 people. It was all about high ticket sales. And I created a box. This was box 0. But I wanted to do it because I wanted to set myself up as a trusted mentor to those attending. And I wanted to give them what they needed to get a breakthrough, even if they didn't buy my products or services. And what ended up happening was they started doing these 3 to 7 minute unboxing videos of this high ticket online box that I created. And then after that, for the next year, people kept on reaching out saying, how did you do these boxes? How did you do that box? And I would just tell people, never cluing in that this was an opportunity until I finally was just tired of people asking me how I was doing it. I built
mm,
a challenge teaching you how to do it. The challenge took off. And then people who completed the challenge, learning how to do what I was doing, came back to me and said, we love the challenge, but we want you to build our box.
yeah.
And that was wake up. People are asking for this and you're not paying attention. And then COVID happened. And now I had this unique means that originally I was building this event in virtual events or this business in virtual events. But now that COVID happened, everyone became a virtual event expert overnight. And something was pulling me to these physical experiences that just felt like an untapped opportunity. And what ended up happening was if I stayed doing a business in virtual events, everyone would have been a competitor. But the pivot of focusing on these box experiences at that point in time, now I could be a collaborator to an entire industry and start
Mm,
to visualize and play with it. And really, what's been a unique blue ocean for us. And it's just evolved since 2020. And we've just grown so much organically ever since. But it was really just waking up and being like, people are asking for something and you have a unique
mm,
product. And it's just
yeah.
evolved in a beautiful way.
That's so great. So
Yeah.
great. Yeah. And I can hear your passion and I can hear this is something you created. So it's yours, right? That's one of the things that really can drive people's passion is you're creative. It's totally a creation that you created. Now, if we were to language it in purpose, what do you see your purposes? If you look out into the marketplace, you look out into the world, you look out into your future, there's a it might not be articulated for you, but what's the purpose? Your purpose.
My purpose, what I say my purpose is to simplify transformation. I see a lot of people in pain. I
Mm,
see a lot of people creating products that they forget there's a customer that is going through it and they lock themselves in a room and build something that they think other people want. And we celebrate them for creating a product and taking action. We don't celebrate the fact that there's someone on the end who truly needs what you have to offer. And are you designing it in a way that gets them a result faster? And so that's really what I look at. I hope this business that we're building, the example I like to give is that think about the iPhone. When the iPhone was launched, we never thought there would be a multi-million-dollar business in iPhone accessories.
Mm.
And so when we think of an accessory, it can protect the iPhone. It can extend the life of the iPhone. It can be personalized to the individual. There's just so much that you can add to it. I'd like to think about these box experiences with any business is that eventually it gets so synonymous that you don't think twice about it. If I'm building an experience and I truly want to simplify transformation of my customers, we definitely need from, and again, experience is seen through the senses. An online experience is only tapping into two senses, what you hear.
Yep.
Box can now activate touch, taste, smell. I can activate more dynamic elements that you just can't with a digital only product. And so this is where this movement for me is just about, for me, there's a lot of pain. How do we make it easier for people to take action? And I can go down
Yeah.
that rabbit hole so much more.
Yeah, I can see that. I can get it. So the purpose is to make it more tangible for not just the person presenting the summit, but the participants, so they get more
Mhm.
connected with what's actually being put across.
And the other example I'll give you, I'll use a course creator as an example, and coaches do this as well. We work with clients that would just say, okay, just print out these resources. When you tell someone they should print out resources, you're assuming they have a printer. It has
Yep.
paper, it has ink, it's hooked up to your computer, you are organized. And if one of those things goes down, then all of a sudden your customer is living in the someday I will get to it. So the intent as to why they bought is pure, but all of a sudden there's these obstacles, and that can manifest itself in so many different ways. But I see it. And then ultimately what happens is there's oftentimes the customer blaming themselves for not
Mm.
taking action. It's me, I don't get it. When the reality is the business owner did not create a clear enough pathway. They created chaos or confusion. And then we blame ourselves. So that's just what I'm trying to reduce. Can we eliminate those obstacles?
Brilliant. Excellent. What do you think's been your biggest challenge along the way of building this current business?
Biggest challenge is if I go to you and say, hey, I see what you're trying to do. A box experience is going to be the key to this. You're
Yes.
going to look back at me and be like, I have no idea what a box experience is. And so
Exactly.
I can't tell you how many times that we have not promoted this business in terms of marketing and really putting ourselves out there. I've been on lots of podcasts, but we've grown via word of mouth and organically. When people hold our product, they get it. But it's this now, they always say, don't innovate, emulate. And of course, now I'm in this blue ocean innovating. And so the biggest challenge is educating the masses. So much of what we're starting to do now is how do we start to educate the masses on a new way to see how they can serve their customers or clients
Gotcha.
or
Gotcha. All
employees?
right. All right, good. So along the journey, what's some of the lessons you've learned? What's some of the things you like? Maybe you had a breakdown, a failure, but you learned something from it.
So many. I think one of the best was my mentor. Everyone should have a mentor because one of the biggest things that I've learned is first and foremost, mindset is everything in this game, but mindset typically is the thing that nobody wants to pay for. So the amazing mentors out there sell you what you want, but give you what you need, which is rewiring mindset. And my mentor that I had, Bart Miller, did a brilliant job at saying this is what like you want, and then gave me what I needed, and it transformed my business from a mindset perspective. We as people are limited between what's between our ears. And
Mm,
so I think it's the role of the entrepreneur to hold a bigger vision for your people than they hold for themselves. And even at this stage of my life, I still look for people that hold a bigger vision for me than I hold for myself because we tend to be very limiting. The other thing I will tell you is team is everything. My team is my greatest asset. I have a team first mentality. I want to protect my team. I want my team to have balance. I want them to have everything that I didn't have in corporate America because I didn't have a life in corporate. It was a 24/7 job. And so balance is important to me and realizing that your team is living in the age of COVID. But I say that in a way that you have to be careful of burnout and you have to recognize that as your business grows, I struggled stepping into the role of CEO. My
mm,
team is now almost 30 people. And it got to a certain point that the business was growing in a way that I have to learn to relinquish control, but I need to be CEO. And you have to be cognizant of how you show up in the world because you don't represent only your business and the people in your business. You represent your clients, you represent their customers in a big way. And so I think that for me was one of the things that I came from a world that was very much client first. And so when you empower your team and you support your team, they are they will my team watches out for me in a way that I've never asked for. And that's where like the greatest blessing of it has been. And so treat your team as your greatest asset.
beautiful. Great.
Yeah.
There's two parts to that, right? The mindset part and the team part, which is really good. The mindset part, My strap line is transform the business owner, you transform the business. It's all what you just said. It's between the ears, the mindset, what you think you can and can't do, like that. Loved it. All right,
Yeah,
very
and I'll even tell you for me, a part that I thought my business was going to be like, this is it, like year one, we had a big setback in which we didn't have fulfillment in-house. Now we do. But at the time, we had a third-party partner. And if you've ever heard the term, you're only as good as your weakest link, we wanted to be world-class. They only wanted to be good enough. And in Q4, this time of year, which is the busiest time of year in my world, Black Friday, Christmas, holidays, time off, they came to us and said, we don't want to service your clients anymore. And they were servicing about 20 of our clients.
wow.
And that created this problem that I was like, I don't have a solution and we're going into holiday. And my mentor looked at me and he said, Mark, this is a 2-week problem. You can solve this in 2 weeks. And had he not said that this is a 2-week problem, I probably would have given up. But because he said this is a 2-week problem, I was like, he's right. I can solve this in 2 weeks. And I solved it in 3 days. And
Yeah.
that one decision transformed my business. And we skyrocketed from 0 to 1 million the first year. But it was
Yeah.
because of those like little pivots and those little voices.
You know, when you have a breakdown like that, it's the precursor to it causes you to have a breakthrough. Like
Yeah.
necessity is the mother of invention. That's actually what causes you to grow, even though it's uncomfortable when it first happens. Your mentor was right on. Yeah, you can do that. You can do it. You just need one person to say you can do it, and you get they believe in you, and that's all you need. You're off.
Will
Great.
completely agree.
Yeah. What would you say to your younger self, or another way to say that, people maybe they're still in corporate America or corporate whatever part of the world they're in, and they'd love to start their own business. They're waiting for the right time or the right thing or the right. What would you say to that?
I grew up in a world that was told that it didn't matter what you felt was right, it was what the data says. And the more that I've evolved into an entrepreneur and leaving the corporate realm, the more I'm realizing that my intuition is my greatest asset, one of my greatest assets. It is a brilliant guide because sometimes it may make logical sense, but the reality is something feels wrong. And you
Mm,
have to lean into that. And so for my younger self, that is something that I would tell him to embrace in a bigger way. And that's probably the biggest piece of advice. The other thing I would just say, and it was hard at the time for those who are listening who are in corporate America, I didn't have a 9 to 5 job. It was like a 24/7. When you work for a corporate consulting firm, you're always on, even on the weekends. Like you may work
mm.
out on the weekend or do work on the weekend because it may buy you a couple minutes in the mornings to go work out before heading into the client office. That was the world. And I put a lot of pressure on myself for not having any business concept. When I left corporate America, I took the plunge. I burnt the ships down. I did not even know what it is that I would do. But I did have the belief that when I released like the mental capacity that was the corporate job I had, it would free up the space for me to get creative again. And so I would just tell
Mm.
people, don't beat yourself up. And then I have one more, and this would be the last one, which is my biggest aha when I left, which is when I transitioned out of corporate, I was a high performer in corporate, but I thought I would crush it in entrepreneurship. And I fell flat on my face. And it got to the point of realizing corporate versus entrepreneur. The best metaphor I can give you is it's like checkers versus chess. The
Yeah.
game board looks the same. The game looks the same. The
Yes.
rules are completely different. And so if you want to win in the game, you have to give yourself permission to say, okay, if I left corporate and now I'm an entrepreneur, learn to play the entrepreneur game because everything you did in corporate is your greatest competitive edge. It's your strategic advantage that you do have. So you don't lose those skills. You learn to play a new game and you layer on those skills, and that becomes your unique edge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you didn't quite say it, but for me, it's just start. You don't have to know. You didn't know. You just went, right? And though you just that caused you to start. Something pushed you off the diving board. In fact.
Yeah. And if you told me I would be in a business of boxes back then, I would say you've lost your mind.
Awesome, Mark. It's been great to have you on the show. How do people reach out to you and say, "Wow, I'd like to find out more about that"?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. You can go to customboxagency.com. You can easily fill out a form and meet with a member of my team. We love to connect with people. Or you can look me up on LinkedIn. Just find Mark R. Stern on LinkedIn and feel free to send me a message. I love to connect with people. I love to hear what people are doing.
Brilliant. Awesome. It's been great to have you on the show. Very enlightening, a new kind
Thank
of
you.
business for most people, for me, and to hear it. And I'm like, well, yeah, that could be great for me too. Thank you for being on the show and just great. Great to meet you.
Great to meet you as well. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome, Mark.